try to keep this session as interesting as possible. It'll be an interactive session. We know it's going to be a tough session for all of you, but I'm sure given the importance of the subject, I think people may not be able to see, so I'll stand. So given the importance of the subject, I think it will definitely be an interesting session for people who are a lot connected with risk management and corporate governance. Risk management and corporate governance is a very, very in subject today under discussion, and CFOs have got a major role to play in this. CFOs, finance managers, they have a major role to play. So I'll start off by throwing open a question for discussion. We generally use corporate governance and risk management interchangeably, but actually are they one and the same? Is risk management a subset of corporate governance, or are they one and the same? I would request Amit to share his views, and then the others could join in the discussion as we move along.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, I mean, specifically on risk management and corporate governance, I think that's slightly different topics to begin with. I think corporate governance is a lot more than just risk management. Risk management probably is one of the requirements of corporate governance within that. Then again, risk management is independent of corporate governance as well. You know, I think there are a lot more aspects in risk management which are not regulatory related. You know, sometimes they're business related, sometimes they could be HR related, or environmental protection, other related, which may not completely get covered in the corporate governance. So I think in my view they're slightly different. And
so what would you feel, whether Pratap, which encompasses the other? Amit told us that they're not one and the same. So which would encompass the other? Is corporate governance a larger umbrella of which risk management is a part, or what can I have your views on this?
Thanks, Amar. My view is, sorry, when we are talking about corporate governance, I'll take a holistic view, which would encompass all related activities to business and managing the business. And risk management is, I can take it as a subset of the universal set of business. For you can identify a project and then try and take measures and quantify the risk, qualify the risk, try and make it risk proof, and then say, okay, in terms of anything going wrong, I'll be able to sustain the loss, sustain the hit. But corporate governance, if you look at it, it takes care of the entire thing. Without taking the name of the company, in India, the biggest disaster that happened, where everything was fine, perfect, the profits were healthy, turnover was good, they got the best award for corporate governance and all. And then finally we find that, it was all cooked up. Now, the real definition of corporate governance is what the management, what the stakeholders unite themselves and come across with the best practices. Keep all the transactions, including the business, very transparent. The stakeholders can be the shareholders, the government, which is one of the key stakeholders because they are responsible to the public, and the company itself, which is responsible to the society at large. So I think, shortly put, I'll put this under the umbrella of corporate governance only.
Right. So thanks for this, Pratap. I think this sort of gels with what thoughts I also had, that risk management can only be a subset of corporate governance. But Riaz, coming from ITC as you do, and ITC for years together has focused on risk management, corporate governance. So can you give an example? Can you give an example of how risk management is a subset of corporate governance in ITC?
So basically, certainly we are very clear by now that these are two different aspects. Corporate governance is how it's a way of life, corporate way of life, and then essentially it is how you direct your business, control your business, and run your business. It's a larger canvas as far as the corporate governance is concerned. Risk management, since we all know, risk and reward coexist in a corporate, in any business. Unless there's a risk, there's no reward. So how much of it you will take, what is your appetite as far as the risk is concerned, is this risk management as one of the ingredients of corporate governance deal with that aspect. Coming to ITC, I must say with proud that ITC has been there for more than 100 years now. Why it is existing more than 100 years, that means ITC is doing something right and doing it the right way, perhaps. Basically, corporate governance is a DNA of ITC. If I were to just give you certain figures, indices, we have done in the last 17 years, we have given 21% growth at PBT level. And shareholder returns has been 26%. Out of that, last 3 years, if you look at it, is 35%. So this is something good ITC is doing, and I'll broadly give you a picture as to how, why and how. Sure. Maybe you'll be able to appreciate that. It was early 70s and late 60s. You must be familiar with two very powerful legislations that India has. One is Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. The other one is MRP, Monopolies Restrictive Trade Practices Act. Unfortunately, this company was subjected to both the legislations, which are very sharp. As far as FERA is concerned, since foreign company was holding in ITC about 100%, that it came under FERA. And then, because it is a dominant undertaking, having more than 30% of product coverage across India, being in cigarettes at that point of time, so it was also an MRTP company. When it was in Prime Minister Mrs. Gandhi's time, when FERA has come in, all foreign institutions, companies, their holding, they needed to reduce it to 40%. So in the process of divestment, when BAT was divesting, it is the financial institutions who come in and held about 30%, more than 1/3 of ITC's equity. With financial institutions came in, that framework of governance. So what I'm trying to do is, way back, 50, 60 years back, ITC is actually started in some sense the governance processes because the financial institutions were part of ITC's holding and they were nominee directors on the board. So this brought in the discipline right from the divestment took place. And this continued, and it's only very recently, last couple of decades, we started seriously taking about corporate governance, following very many scandals that have happened over a period of time and still continue to happen despite this framework that you have obtained. Even listed companies, by way of listing agreements and all that, we got into a corporate framework, but that's not enough. See, as far as corporate governance is concerned, I feel it's a belief, it is a way of life, it is larger than risk management, controls, doing business is also a part of it. So, I personally feel corporate governance is much larger canvas of which this risk management is one element.
Sure. Thanks, Riyad. I think that was quite insightful of giving the history of how corporate governance came into ITC, and in a way answered our question also as to whether risk management is a part of corporate governance. So what do you feel, Kannan, about this whole thing? Urban Mills, of course, is largely into a growth phase. So what do you feel about the whole thing?
Good afternoon. In fact, I'll just start from where Riyaz was mentioning in terms of the encompass of corporate governance versus risk management. Actually, in fact, 2007, I was like part of, similar to you, I was attending a corporate governance workshop where so KV Kamath, ICICI Bank, all of us know. So he was making a very nice sort of definition of what corporate governance, how does he see? He said actually it's like a quality movement. I think some of you or some of us are from a manufacturing background, manufacturing, having worked through the manufacturing companies. So if he really nicely put it up as a quality movement, whatever has happened in the manufacturing area, it is like a movement, if you have to define corporate governance. So whatever people or companies who pursued, in fact I was part of a group, TVS group, which was doing Deming Award. Very few companies used to have Deming Award in the country. It was not for any commercial gain. It was of, pursuing a philosophy of certain values. So I think he really put it up in a very apt context. He said it's like a movement which you need to have. I'm sure like what he explained in terms of the ITC, the journey which company has gone through. Few of the companies which are, which have built a set of values and worked towards achieving the, sort of the set objectives in the long run, you will agree that it is really a movement kind of a, sort of a journey. As against which risk management, definitely I think all businesses have risks. I think it is to do with the strategy and operations. I think some of the people talked about what day in, day out we go through. So I think in nutshell, if you have to look at it, today corporate governance is being seen more from a regulatory point of view. Some of us, or mostly in retail, regulatory is coming in a little bit. I think we are discussing actually now, I think in the future regulatory is going to also play a key role. But I think we have to see beyond regulatory and then say what sort of difference is going to make in our day-to-day working, as Riaz was saying. It's a way of working, the belief, a set of values, what we want to pursue. So that's really,
Sure.
to summarize my view on.
Sure. Thanks, Kannan. So I think one of the